This conference will now be recorded.
Any questions from previous class? So let us continue the object-oriented approach. So in the previous class, we discussed local class and also we discussed instance static. We are going to discuss now constructor, class constructor in the local class. Then we will see the same thing in the global class, whatever we discussed so far. So constructor is a special method. Whenever object is instantiated, that time constructor is called. Let me show you. Constructor is a special method. Whenever object is instantiated, that time constructor is called. Let me create one class, local class, and let's see class, class definition, end class, class, implementation, end class. In the definition, in the public section, constructor should be defined always in the public section. Constructor always should be defined in the public section. It is like instance method. So definitely we should write method. If it is a static method, it is like class hyphen method. So constructor is a special method. It's like an instance method. It is always defined in the public section of a class. Whenever object is instantiated, that time constructor is called. First, let us define the constructor. And also, you should not change the spelling. If you change any of the letters, then it is not like a constructor, it is like a normal method. So it should be like that. We should not change the spelling. Of course, in the implementation, we write method, constructor, CONSTRUCTOR, and method, object is called. Now after end class, start of selection. So we instantiate the object. We do not call it explicitly like other methods. Now let's see object is called. Instead of object, I will write constructor is called. See, so constructor is a special method. It's an instance method. It is defined always in the public section. We should define like methods, constructor. We should not change the spelling. Whenever object is instantiated, that time constructor is called. Whenever object is instantiated, that time constructor is called. Here we have not called the constructor explicitly. We just created the object, then constructor is called automatically. So, is it clear, anyone? Any questions on constructor?
Venkat, what do you mean by instantiation, and in which scenarios do we use constructor?
Yeah, instantiation means this one only. We are creating an object here, right? It's the instantiation of the class. So whenever object is instantiated, whenever object is created, that time constructor is called. Usually normal methods, you call them explicitly like this, OBJ, and you write the method name. But in this case, you no need to call the constructor explicitly like this. When we create object, it means instantiation of the class or object is instantiated. Object is called, then constructor is called. In which scenarios we use it? For example, you want to display some details of employee, like personal details or address, whatever it is, and you want to take some employee number based on the login user ID. Then in that cases, you can create a constructor, and in the constructor you can write the logic, the initialization kind of logic, and you can take the employee and you can set that employee in the global attribute. And in other methods like get personal data or get address, in that method you can use that employee and you read that employee details. I can say it's like initialization kind of thing. The first method, it is called first type. Based on your requirement, you can utilize this however you want. And also constructor takes only exporting parameter. Constructor has only here importing parameter, importing. For example, LV care, something type care handler. It only contains this importing parameter. Then while calling, you can pass this. For example, method constructor. Let's say I say write LV care. Here create object exporting LV care. I'm just writing something. Let me execute. I have written the wrong spelling. See, so constructor contains only importing parameter. It takes the data, and how it takes the data, you can pass it from the object like this. Similarly, here I can pass maybe login user ID or whatever it. Then here based on the login user ID, I can read the employee details. I can do whatever we want, and then we can take those necessary data and we can keep it, and in the required methods we can use that data. But it depends upon the business needs. Is it clear now?
Yeah.
Now let us see class constructor. Class constructor is like a static method. Whenever class is loaded first time, then class constructor is called. So constructor is a special method. It is always defined in the public section. Same way class constructor is also special method. It is always defined in the public section. But constructor is like instance method. Class constructor is like a static method. Whenever object is instantiated, that time constructor is called. Whenever class is loaded first time, that time class constructor is called. Class is loaded first time means you don't need to create an object because it's a static method. When you access any attribute or a method of a class, first time whatever attribute or method you access from that class, that time itself class constructor is called. First let me define the class method. Class underscore constructor. So method constructor, class hyphen method, class underscore constructor. Let me implement the method class constructor end method. So write class constructor is called. So here I am just creating two objects, then let's see what will be happening. So here I created two objects. See, so class constructor is called only once, but constructor is called twice because we created two objects. Whenever object is instantiated, that time constructor is called. Class constructor is like a static method. Whenever class is loaded first time, that time class constructor is called. Because class is loaded first time means you no need to create an object. Even you access any attribute or any methods of the class, that also like class is loaded first time and class constructor is called. So is it clear about constructor and class constructor? Any questions? Everyone? Okay, now let me show you where you can find the documents of this. So here you can find constructor, class constructor, and so you can find the same documented notes here. Now you know local class, global class. This is called inside program. You already know. But coming to the function module, we have importing, exporting, changing, tables, exceptions. When you create, you have importing, exporting, changing, tables, exceptions. But when we call it, importing becomes exporting, exporting becomes importing. Changing, tables, and exceptions. Coming to the subroutine, perform, we always have tables using changing in perform, and form also, same thing. We should not change this order. Coming to the methods, we have importing, exporting, changing, returning. Importing becomes exporting, exporting becomes importing, changing becomes changing, returning. When you call returning parameter, it is like receiving. It is like receiving, and also returning should be always passed by value, and returning should not be together either exporting or changing or both. Means when you have exporting parameter, we should not use returning. If you have changing parameter, we should not use returning. If you have both exporting, changing, we should not use returning. So those things are here, and there are the different signatures to call method obj or obj method directly or obj method. We will see these different signatures during the global class. Now I'm going to start the global class. Before that, I want to ask everyone, whatever we discussed so far, is it clear for you? Do you have any questions? Can I get responses in the chat box to go to the new topic? Let me know if you have anything else. Okay, thank you. Now let's start the global class. So we create global class in SC24. So we already know that SC24 is the transaction code. And here we give with ZRY. And we click create. And here we have class and interface. We will also see the interface. What is interface and all. But let me give you some glance now. Class has both definition and implementation. Class contains both methods, attributes defined in the definition, but there is no, it also contains implementation. In the implementation, we implement those methods. But coming to the interface, it contains only the definition, it doesn't contain the implementation. So then what is the use of interface? So interface contains definition, it doesn't contain implementation. It is used to be implemented by class. We use interface to implement in the class or to create reference variables which can hold objects of other classes. Interface is used to be implemented by class or to create reference variables which can hold objects of other classes. So let me create a class now. I'm giving some description here. And here we are creating usual ABAP class at the moment. And we also have exception class. It is only to raise exceptions. Persistent class is used to store data at runtime. But if you want, you can go saptechnical.com. There is one demo on one tutorial on persistent class. We can explore on that. But by default, this final checkbox is checked. I will explain what is the significance of this final checkbox after a while. Let's create a global class at the moment. Now, this is the properties tab. We will discuss each and every tab here. Coming to the properties tab, the description and also who created, who changed, when created, when changed, all these things will be there. Now, this is the attributes tab and this is the methods tab where we define the method. So whatever local class was created first, we will do the same thing now. Set value, and here you can select either instance or static method by selecting from here, and also you can select whether it is public or protected private. So unlike local class, you don't need to write all the coding here. It's like a user interface. You can give the name and you can select instance or static, and you can select the visibility. And also if you select here and you click parameters, you can create the parameters. This is like val1. You can give importing and also type I like this. Now when you go back and if you want to implement method, you just double click. If you want to implement method, you just double click, and here you write the code, and you see this is your parameter. This is your importing parameter. You can see even the tooltip as well. And let's say this is the signature here. If I click, your parameter part is hidden, and if I click again, your parameter part is visible. But here I have to take this val1 and I keep it in some attribute as per earlier implementation. So we need to define some attribute. For that, you go to the attribute and you can give the attribute name here. And here you can choose whether it is instance or static. And also you can choose here even visibility, right? Public or private protected. And also here you can define the associated type. Now if you go to the methods and set value, and whatever val1 we are getting, take it and keep it in the int. I think it's int1 we defined. Let's see. Now save, activate. Now if you go back, let's define again get value, instance, public. Now go to the parameter. This time let's give val2, but this time it's an exporting type. Whatever we did in the local class, we are doing the same thing in the global class. Okay, nothing else. Only the difference is there we created in SC38 and we called it in SC38 in the same program itself. But here we are creating it in SC24 because it's a global class, and this can be called anywhere in the system in any program or report, smart form or anything. And another difference is here we have the flexibility, like UI flexibility, user interface we have. So UI flexibility means whatever we are doing everything in the user interface. By default, SC24 opened in the user interface. Let's say I don't want this UI, I want the same editor like local class. If you want, you can do that also. If you want, you can do that also. How? I don't want this UI. I'm interested in coding in SC24. Same like SC38 local class. I don't want this UI like this. I don't want to choose importing, exporting, or I don't want to choose. Then if you here you are able to see, guys, here source code base. Are you able to see here? If you click this, it will be like source code based, like local class editor now. By default, it is the form based, means UI based. See, now it's same like local class, but it's not local class, it's a global class only. For example, here in the method, I define some method like map something. Now I save and activate. Yeah, because obviously I have to write also method and method, right? Math one and method. Now we are in the source code base. Here you are able to see form based. Now we are reverted to the same before one, the default one. See method and we method one. Right? I am removing here now completely activated. Now I am going back to the source code base. See, no more your method. Now I'm going back to the form base, which is the default one. So actually both are same only. Only thing is in SC24 you have the option to have UI option, form based option. If you want, you can switch to the source code option, same like local class. So don't think that if the code is like this, it's a local class, right? If it looks like it is a local class, if it looks like it's a global class, no. If it is the case, you are completely wrong. Only thing is, if you create it in SC38 in ABAP editor, then it's a local class. If you create it in SC24, it's a global class. That's only the thing, okay? Now, I'm going to execute now from here. Here as well you can test because it's a instance method. So first let me test set value and I put some value here. Then if I execute get value, see it's displaying same thing. Because it's a global class, so let's call it in the SC38. Let's call it in the SC38. So same like we did in the beginning, first local class. I'm also going to do the same thing here now, but that is local, this is global. Because it's a global class, we are able to call it in the system from anywhere, program or a report or a smart form. So first time, because both are instance method means we should create object and we should call them. So let me create object. I am going to the pattern option now. Go to the ABAP object pattern and here give the instance that is obj, which is our object. Give the class name here and give the method name here. Let's say set value. First I am giving set value. So here I am passing this. Now go to the pattern, ABAP object pattern, get value. Now here you just declare something to pass that LV type I, for example, LV. Now let's write this. So let's see Now, yeah, create object. Here I need to give the OBJ, not class name, right? You already know that. Now let me test it. If you want, you can keep the breakpoint and you can also do. Now OBJ is initial. Once if you execute create object, then object is instantiated, is passing here, and then if you press F5, see it is going to SC24 class. Then it come back, and then it's giving this LV val, and its type is the same thing. So same thing, whatever we did in local class, we have done here. But let me tell you another thing. Here I am changing from instance to static. If I change attribute to static, yes, we can do that. Now I am changing these methods to static. That can be done. Fine, I changed everything to static. Now if I go back to the program, still it will work. Because if the methods are static, you can create object and you can also call. But if the methods are static, you no need to create even object itself. So what I will do, I will remove everything. Like I am nowhere creating object. I directly go to pattern, ABAP object pattern. I am not creating anymore, using any more instance. See, I am calling directly the class and the method. And here I am passing p_int. Now I am going pattern, ABAP object pattern. Get value. Here we will do this. Now execute and do this. So if it is the methods are static, you no need to create objects. You can directly call with the class. Now what I am going to do, the methods are static, but I am going to change it to instance. Now let's see what's going to happen now. There is an error. Methods are static, but I changed before. Methods are instance, but the attribute is static, it works. But now, sorry guys. So what we understood, right? If the methods are static, if attribute was instance, we were able to, sorry, if the methods were, let me show you, methods are static, but before methods were instance, attribute was static. It worked even in the, if you remember well, SAP memory, ABAP memory, when we explained instance and static, there everything was instance, but we declared one attribute, right? Static attribute, like SAP memory, but that static attribute was used inside instance method. Same way here also, static attribute was used inside instance method. But now the reverse means the methods are static, but attribute is instance, but we are not able to use Why? Because within a static method, we can use only static attributes. We cannot use instance attribute inside static method. So that we need to understand. So now they are static, but attribute is instance, so it doesn't work. So static method, but now even if you change to instance, it will work. So within a static method, we can use only static attributes. Okay, now I changed back to instance, but when I go to the program, it doesn't work now because see, and also you can observe here, right? If they are static methods, you can directly call with the class. And another important thing is here you can use the double arrow. You can use the double arrow, but if they are instance methods, you can use single arrow. So is it clear, everyone, whatever we discussed till now? Do you have any confusion? Can you give confirmation in the chat box so that I can go to the new topic for the day? Is it clear, everyone? Or any confusions or anything? I'm looking responses from everyone, guys. And also, did you understand the form-based, source code-based editor? Okay. Then till now we are familiarized. Are you all? I just want to check. Have you already known about this source code-based and form-based? Have you tried before this? Or how many of you this is the first time you are realizing this? I just checking, that's it. Maybe if you want, you can give in response in the chat box. Have you already known this feature like form based, source code based before, or you are coming to know now itself? Okay, great. Yeah, I'm just checking this because whether it is good to explain in the next batches or if it is already know. So I'm just checking the feedback. That's it. Okay, then properties we have discussed, attributes we have discussed, methods we have discussed. Now let me explain these types. So before that, let me ask you one question. Let's say I want to display some customer data, but that data is multiple data. I want to display multiple customer data. So sorry, it's not attribute. I want to create a method. Okay, basically I want to create a method which displays multiple customers. Now anyone can tell me this method will display multiple customers, means multiple records. This method will display multiple records. Now here anyone can tell me what can be declared as associated type. I am expecting multiple customers.
Table type.
Yeah. Anyone any idea? Yeah, table type is correct, but I just want to know something else. So anyone idea on this? Yeah, if I go for table type is correct, we usually go sometimes like that. But table type is a physical object. Why should I waste physical memory and physical object creation just to display the runtime data? Correct? Do you agree with me? Why
Yes.
should I waste physical memory or object for displaying runtime data? So for that, what we can do here, there is a types option here. Let me remove as of now types option. Go to the type. Just give something, and if you give some visibility where you want the type, just then if you go here, then it will navigate to this one. See, whatever you define, you see the types here. Here you just define types like begin of, whatever you want, you can define here. ty underscore kna1. Kunnar type, Kunnar. Land one type, land one. Name one type, name one. End of tykna1. Don't define data here because it's all types. So remember that. Because for multiple data, you need a table type. So runtime type like type table of tykna1. It's a runtime object. It's a runtime object. Now save it. If you go back, see tykna1, tkna1. Now go to the method get customer, and here you give whatever you want type like exporting. Now I think you declare tkna1, give it here. Now here you write the logic, whatever. So let me check what fields I have chosen here. Kunnar land one name one. So go to the method and double click and implement select Kunnar land one name one from KNA1 into table ET data. That's it. I just into table ET data up to 10 rows I put, or else you can create also input import parameter. Now we also understood. Let me execute and show you. Now get customer. See, we are able to see the data. So we understood now properties, attributes, methods, types. And if you look at here, constructor, class constructor. If I click constructor, see here it is disappeared. So from that it is very clear that we can create only one constructor, and see it's an instance method and it's a public. It should be defined in the public. Even if I click class constructor, see it is disappeared from here. So it is very clear that we can create only one constructor and one class constructor. And here class constructor static and public, because it's a static constructor. Whatever before we did, it's like instance. Class constructor is like a static method. And if I delete here, see you can see constructor here. If I delete from here, you can see here class constructor. Even if I click here, you can see here constructor. If I click here, even you can see class constructor. So you can understand here also, same thing, constructor is an instance method. Whenever object is instantiated, that time constructor is called. So class constructor is like a static method. Whenever class is loaded first time, that class constructor is called, but both should be defined in the public section and they are unique. You cannot create more constructors. Only one constructor you can do. Okay, now we need to understand inheritance, right? Superclass, subclass we were discussing. For example, if you go to the properties, if you remember well, when we created the class, by default, the final checkbox is checked, correct? So, okay, let me create another class. And while creating this class, here also you see the final checkbox is checked. We are going to discuss the significance of that. But now I'm going to this properties here, and you see the super class here, right? I click the super class, and here I'm going to give the first class as a super class here, but there is an error. See, is a final, it cannot have subclasses. It means if you want to inherit any class, if you want to use any class as a super class, that should not be final. Final means you cannot inherit it. You cannot use it as a super class. If you want to inherit it, if you want to use as a super class, it should not be final, because if you put it final means you cannot use it in the inheritance concept. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm in the first class. Okay, somewhere it is also open here. I am unchecking the checkbox final. At the same time, I am also going to do something here, that in the method I am also going to create, because these are all public, I am going to create some protected, private and all. No, I am going to define now protected. If you look, this contains one protected, one private and multiple public. Okay, let's see now why I am explaining this. Now let me going to create another class. I remove the final. Now go to the properties and go to the super class, and let's use this now. Now no more error. And if you go to the methods, okay, first let me save. See, in the methods, which kind of methods you are able to see here, what method you are not able to see here from the super class. Like in this class, right, we created all these methods. Do you agree with me? But one method I am not able to see. That what is that method? Does anyone? Which one?
Private one.
Private method, right? Because here this get data to also we created, but we are not able to see that. Why? Because you know that in inheritance we are able to see public and protected in the inheritance concept. And here also you can define your own method. You can define in this subclass your own method, whether it is anything public or protected or private. But how can I differentiate? You can see the color. These are like inherited methods. Or else if you uncheck this filter, you can see your own methods. If you uncheck, you can see all methods. If you check, means if you filter, you can see your own method. Okay, that is one thing. Now we also understood how superclass subclass works. Now let me explain the last one, the interface. I'm going to create some interface here. So we discussed interface is like a class, but it doesn't have implemented method. So I'm just creating one method like math1. And also here you have instance static, but you don't have visibility, because all methods are like public only. In interface, By default, all methods are public. They don't have visibility. And even if I double click, nothing will be there. Why? Because you can't implement the methods. You can only define the method. Okay, I'm defining the method. Then where I will implement? So interface contains only definition. It doesn't contain implementation. It's like a class. You can use it to implement in the class. Interfaces to be implemented by class, right? To create reference variables which can hold objects of other class. Now I am in the class. Here I define in the interface the same thing I define. As soon as I define this interface in the method C, Z interface meth1, meth2. Now I can implement this method to display the customer data. You can use this interface in your class and you can display it for vendor data. That's what I told you. The same method is behaving here to display customer data. The same method behaves to display vendor data at you. So this is nothing but polymorphism. This is nothing but polymorphism because same method is behaving in different ways, which is nothing but polymorphism. Polymorphism. Now coming to the aliases, right? See, interface methods are so long because interface name is long, method name is so long. When you call them, it is very difficult, right? So you can give some alias names here, and instead of using that big name, you can use this alias name while calling the method. That's what alias is. Events, usually we create some events here and we trigger the event, then the method is automatically called. So we understood aliases, types, methods, attributes. What is friends? The last one is friends. You know, in inheritance concept, if you use a class as a super class, you are able to access public and protected. You can't access private methods. But if you declare some class as a friend class here, you can access also the private methods of that class. That's the friend. So I can say that we completed all the tabs and now we are good to go AMDP. So whatever we discussed till now, it will be useful for you even to work in the real-time object-oriented approach. At the same time, now you can easily understand the AMDP, right? I'm going to start AMDP. I think tomorrow I will start AMDP now. But our class time is 7 to 8. Okay, I'm sending the link 7 o'clock, even from tomorrow, even before I will send, but I will start exactly at 7:05. Okay. So because most of the people are joining after 7:15, 7:20, but just habituate, right, accordingly. So tomorrow we will start AMDP. Tomorrow we will start AMDP. Now you can easily understand AMDP because it's very easy now because you understood how to create local class, global class, right? It's very easy. I will also give assignment from tomorrow, okay? Because very, very important AMDP. So I will give assignments from tomorrow. Make sure you all have server access and all, okay? All the documents and all. So any questions, guys? I'm stopping for today. Let me know if you have any questions.
Sir, I request you to please send me 31st classes, sir.
Yeah, I will do that. I will do that. Somehow your mail ID is missed in the videos list, so you didn't get. We added. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any
Happy New Year,
questions?
sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I wish the same for everyone. Huh? I wish happy and prosperous New Year. Okay. Yeah. Any questions, guys?
What
Any,
is the accessibility of the protected method, sir? So, in which class we can use
which one? What is the
protected method? We have the accessibility of the private and protected. Private cannot be inherited to the subclass.
Hmm. Yeah.
Where can we use the protected class? Means we are inheriting into the child class also. Then what is the difference between the public and protected?
Yeah. If it is protected, let's say if a class is a public, right? You can use it everywhere. Correct? You can create an object and you can use it, right? If it is a public. Correct?
Yeah. Yes.
If it is a private, you can use it only inside the class. You cannot create object and you cannot access private method. Correct? Now,
Yes.
same way protected, you can use it inside the class, but if
Okay.
someone wants to create object and they cannot access protected, correct? It's a protected because everyone cannot access protected method. Do you agree?
Yes.
Only inside the class and in the inheritance, right? That's the use of protected. See, public means no security for that. Anyone can access. Private
Okay.
means there is a lot of security because you can use inside the class. That's it. Protected means there is a security, right? Everyone cannot access by creating object. Only inside class it can be accessible, and also in the inheritance. That's the difference for protected and private public.
Okay. So we cannot create the instance, means we cannot create the object and we cannot call the protected method outside of the class.
Exactly. You can
Thank you,
try.
sir.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.